Hey, what's up, guys? So, in this video, I'm going to show you guys my league settings and my franchise sliders. This is, for me, the sliders I'm going to show you guys is my realistic franchise sliders. This is, when I say realistic, basically means I am trying to replicate that, NFL feel, that NFL play style that you see every Sunday where it could go either way. The game could go either way, especially in terms of the play calling, the way your O line is set up, and stuff like that. So I'm gonna show you guys the sliders right now, just to get into it, just for you guys, for those of you who just want the sliders. So here's the player skill, and then here's the CPU skill, and then here's the special teams. I didn't touch them. I wouldn't recommend touching them, because you don't want to make the kickers better or worse. Obviously, like, why wouldn't you want to make the kickers better? It doesn't really make sense to. Kicking and punting isn't that hard of a thing to do, so you should just leave it up to the kicker whether he's good or not. And then the game options, I'm still working on fatigue. Injuries, I will say 25 is the highest you should go. I'm trying to find a sweet spot with it, but yeah, 23 is perfectly fine. And then my penalties, these never work, so I don't touch them. The only thing I touched here was roughing kicker and running into the kicker. I turned them off. This happens way too frequently. And yes, it sucks that I have to turn them off, but it literally happens on every single kick that the CPU does. So there's literally no point in having them on. And then penalties, I've already tested them. I've tried my best with them. They just don't work, and I'm not really gonna beat myself over, trying to figure them out. Now, obviously, like I said, just really quick, I want to explain them really quick. Uh, the major ones that I really changed are just the blocking. The blocking is just, it gives that coin flip every single snap where whether your offensive line is gonna block good or not, whether it's passing or pass blocking or run blocking. And then for the accuracy, the catching, accuracy is just to give that feel of you gotta make that good play, whether not good play, but that good throw and that good accuracy. It also separates, your QB from the rest of them, from all the other ones in the league. And then wide receiver catching, just too many drops. Ball security is just 49. Basically, if you lower it any lower than 49, you're gonna have too many fumbles. And if you up it anything above 50, you're never gonna have a fumble. So, and then defense plays perfectly fine on both sides, so they're both 50 on each of them. Tackling, tackling just doesn't happen as much as it should, especially on a running back that has like the freight train X factor, let's say. That X factor running back is gonna break like 19 tackles, which is unrealistic. Obviously, I exaggerated there, but you get my point. It's just unrealistic the amount of broken tackles they have. Now, for the CPU skill, obviously their accuracy is better. It makes them a little more aggressive, and it makes your defense have to adjust to the how the QB plays. Now, pass blocking and run blocking, they're not the same. Pass blocking is for your pass rush to get there, and then run blocking, it's easy to stop the run this year actually. So as long as you're patient, you're shooting the right gap, or you're even containing. Uh, Instead of QB containing, you kind of contain the running back. You're gonna stop the run pretty easily. Now, wide receiver catching, there wasn't enough drops, so that's why it's at 43. Now, ball security is the same as the player skill 49 because it actually played well enough to where, there's enough fumbles. Uh, the Lions, the two times I played the Lions in different years, they fumbled a lot. So, I guess that's just something with them, right? As is in the NFL, some teams fumble a lot more than others because, they don't have that type of discipline with the ball because of coaching or, any other reason. Now, for the defense, it's the same thing as the player skill. It's all 50. I found that they both play well on each side. You're gonna see that difference between a 60 overall DB and a 80 overall DB, right? Or even a 70 overall DB. You're gonna see that difference. Now, and it also makes their individual skills very, very valuable in terms of who has, the like who has a good man coverage, uh, overall compared to someone who has a very low man coverage overall. But then tackling, I felt that they were tackling way too much. Saquon Barkley, I love using the freight train ability, like I mentioned, but for like for the CPU. But I like using it on Barkley when I play with him, Saquon Barkley. Um, he doesn't break 19 tackles like the CPU does, right? But he does break like, two or three, right? So, especially when the ability is active, like it should work that way, right? But when he has it off, he's only breaking like one here and there. So, I feel like 47 is good enough to where, you know, they tackle still, but you're not gonna be fucking, excuse me, you're not gonna be running uh, 90 yards each run play that you do. Now, I will say one more thing for the run blocking, or for not the run blocking, but blocking in general. The reason I have it at 40 for the player skill is because it's going to make that difference between a good O line and a bad O line, an average O line, and, below average. So, those are the sliders. Now, I will say, as I'm showing you my XP sliders, I do want to just mention that at some point, guys, you're gonna build a good team at some point, and you're gonna build a dynasty, which, in my personal opinion, I think that's what franchise is about. It's about how long it takes you to make a dynasty. It's about how good, or not a good, but how effective you are in the contracts and stuff like that to keep that dynasty together. But regardless, you're gonna reach a point where the sliders are just, they're just not good enough to keep up with the skill of your players on the team. Like, you could have a whole 99 overall team, and you could put the sliders for the player skill at zero, or not zero, but all of them at one, and the team is still gonna play lights out. You can't do anything about that. I know it sucks that, like, at some point the game becomes unrealistic like it is for me now. I'm undefeated. I'm scoring like 40 points a game. Um, but I'm starting to lose some players. I'm losing two X Factor cornerbacks this offseason because I have no money. So at some point, nothing lasts forever. So that realistic feeling is gonna come back eventually. You just gotta keep playing the games. Enjoy your dynasty that you have now. Et cetera, et cetera. And all the players age, so you're gonna lose players because of retirement as well. Regardless, though, XP sliders they're all 130 except for the progressing and the regression. I don't touch that because I feel like these players don't have personalities, you don't know them in real life, etc. So how can you know, how are you gonna distinguish between whether a player regresses at 29 or 30? Because some players, they get out of the league. Like Cam Newton, I don't really know the age he was out of the league by. But then he came back, right, with the Patriots, and then I think it was the Panthers, and he just wasn't the same, right? He wasn't the same anymore. So you can't, you know, like tell the difference between that. So I just don't touch these. The reason my XP sliders are at 130 is to give every position the chance to progress, right? If you have punters and kickers at 100, dude, they're never gonna progress. You use them like maybe 5 times each a game. Like they're never ever gonna progress. So 130 is good for all of them. And then now for my draft class set strength, I have them all at default. I don't touch that at all because if like my thinking is if you're gonna make the QB class strong, you already know the QBs are gonna be good. So at that point, it's just up to you whether or not you wanna like it's up to you on which player you want, like the name of the player, stuff like that. So regardless though, my gameplay settings, I play with all Madden. I play simulation with 10-minute quarters, and then I do play with an accelerated clock with a minimum play clock time of 11 seconds. The 11 seconds is just for the CPU to have time to call an audible, do any type of player motions, stuff like that, and so that they don't create a false start. Yes, they're gonna have a false start here and there, but or not false start, delay of game. My bad. Um, they are gonna have a delay of game here and there, but this creates it to where they have a chance to do their pre-game or pre-play adjustments because the CPU's coding is bad to where they don't know how to manage the clock. Regardless, though, dynamic momentum, I have that on. All the team settings here in terms of player movement, free agency, injury management, anything like that, they're all manual. I control all of that, especially reorder depth chart, even though this doesn't really work that well. Regardless, though, tutorial pop-ups is on because that's default. Ball hawk settings, I'll show that in a second. But then here, but this is all keep individual by default. And then the only thing I changed here was relocation settings. I disabled this. I think it's corny with all the teams they have, like the Red Dragon stuff like that. That's not realistic. I highly doubt there's ever going to be a team in the NFL called Red Dragons or anything else that they have, Blue Angels or something like that. I don't know. I just hate it. I think it's corny. That's my opinion, right? But progressive fatigue, I'm still working on that, but I do have it on. I recommend having it on. If you have it off, your players are gonna play too unrealistic. Like if you have a fast player, he's gonna play like super fast, and I feel like that's kind of unrealistic. So just keep it on. It is unfortunate that progressive fatigue and fatigue in general doesn't really work the way it should this year, but I'm still working on that. And then free agency, um, this is all default. I didn't touch this. League type settings, I didn't touch that. Depth trait management, I don't touch this at all because if you mess with it at all, you're gonna create it to where if you up it, you're gonna have too many X factors, too many superstars, too many stars. You're gonna have super like human players. You're gonna have players developing at a fast rate. Unless you want that in your league, then yeah, obviously, right? But if you want realism, just keep this as is. For roster protection, I have the only thing I touched here was fill roster. I turned it off. Uh, I don't want CPU messing with my team. I want have complete control. And then really quick, my user settings for the game options. Basically here, coin. This is personal preference. I have it kick and then against win. If I win the coin toss, you're basically guaranteed win to have win for your game winning kick if it comes down to that. At the end at the fourth quarter. Now, if obviously if you don't win the coin toss, I'd say kick against or yeah, still kick against win. But if you lose the coin toss, which we don't get to see that, but if you don't have wind in the fourth quarter, then you'll know that obviously you lost the coin toss. But basically, if you lose it, then you won't have wind obviously at the in the fourth quarter. But enough of that. The passing mechanics, I have placement and accuracy. I have slow down off, and then the reticle distance, I have it at near, and then for the speed, I have it at 7. And then for the visibility for both, I have invisible. Now, here's the thing that I think everybody wanted to see. The gameplay helpers, I have them all off. The reason for this, except for the auto flip, but that doesn't have anything to do with the player. Excuse me. Regardless though, I have these off because I feel like, whether an interception should come down to where you place the DB, how good you place him, whether you should earn an interception. You shouldn't just have the freaking game assist you in intercepting the ball, right? Now, obviously, I'm not gonna knock anyone who has it on, right? But if you want that realistic feel, which is what I'm trying to replicate, I recommend you to have these off. Um, but other than that, I think that's it in terms of the sliders and all of that. I will have another video showing, team schemes, auto subs, the progressive fatigue, going a little bit in depth into that. But yeah, guys, so you could see 11-0. Really quick. I'm gonna show my team. I have built, I wouldn't say a super team, but I have built a 90 overall team, as you can see. Uh, they're good. I've built a dynasty, I'd say, because I've won the Super Bowl, I think, not in a row, but I've won it, I think, about 7 times. Yeah, seven times I think so far. But that's because I prioritize O-line, obviously, because if you know the Giants' real life, they have a really bad O-line. So I made it my mission to prioritize them. And I will say the O-line makes a hell of a difference in terms of your team being a good team and not, because it allows your QB to have that time in the pocket and stuff like that. But enough talking. I hope you guys appreciate the sliders. I do appreciate you guys watching, and I hope these work for you guys, give you that realistic feel. I will say, if you have a below average team, or you have an average roster, um, or team for that matter, you're gonna feel that anything you do. So if you have a really bad running back, you're gonna see that difference. If you have a really bad O line, you're gonna see that difference. If you have an average defense, you're gonna see that difference. I think at the bottom right here, you can see my team stats. We're first in points per game, yards per game, rush yards per game, defensive points per game, and then pass yards. Obviously, I'm getting a little torched. Well, not really. I'm 11th, but you see what I mean. Like, if you build your team good, you're gonna have a dynasty. Which for me, like I said, I think that's the goal. Uh, you know, build a dynasty, build a super team, have a team like the Patriots in real life back when Tom Brady was on the team. Regardless, though, enough talking. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll be out with my next video, about with everything, all the other things I didn't cover in this video. I didn't want this video to be too long. Regardless, though, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.